Hi guys, Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to another episode of Happy Chirp. Today I have with me Nelly Attar, who is a Lebanese woman living in Saudi Arabia. She happens to be an athlete who is not an average athlete because she just did the K2 summit and she is here with us. So congratulations for that.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for making the time and coming to do this because you literally just came back and I can't even imagine how tired you must be at the moment. So I really appreciate that, you're still here and you're doing this with us. So in most of our podcasts, what we like to do is that we really like to know the person who has done whatever they have done. So we'd really like to get to know you, connect with you, and talk a bit about your life journey and how that sort of got you here. So my first question would be, where were you born and raised?
I was born and raised in Saudi, Riyadh.
Right. So even though you're Lebanese, but you were born and raised in Saudi, how did that sort of...
Yes, so my parents moved to Saudi when they got married, and I was born there and raised there, and I spent all of my schooling years. And then I left for about 6 years, and then I moved back to Saudi. So I've been back to Saudi for a while now, and it's my home.
It's your home.
Yeah.
So you went to Lebanon for 6 years?
I went to Lebanon and the UK to study, and then I moved back.
What is it that you studied?
Psychology.
Psychology,
Yeah.
Right. And why did you do psychology?
Honestly, I wanted to be a vet, and then my parents were not so supportive of the idea. So then I ended up studying economics, which was my second favorite subject at school. But then a year into studying economics, I felt like, is this what I want to do? I mean, I like the theory, but do I want to work as an economist or do I want to work in economy? Then I took a few elective courses in psychology, and I liked it. I really liked it, so I decided to make the switch, and then I continued down that path.
Right.
Until I switched again.
Yeah. So why vet? Was it like a love for animals? What was it?
Yes.
Yeah?
A big love for animals.
Big love for animals?
Yeah.
That's sweet.
Yeah.
Did you have any pets growing up?
I still have a lot of pets.
You have lots of pets?
Yes. While I'm still growing up.
Right. So how long did you practice psychology? Did you practice it fully?
Yes. After I finished my master's, I worked in it purely for about 2 years. Then that kind of morphed into coaching, life coaching.
Right.
So it was still it still depended on my background in psychology. And then, 4 years into that kind of world, the coaching and psychology world, I switched into sports full time.
Yeah. And how did that happen?
So as I was working in the hospital as a psychologist, this was in Saudi, that was my first official job, I started to teach dance fitness classes. At the time, there were not many female gyms available in Saudi. Sports was not very accessible for women. So I started to teach classes at the hospital, here and there. And then that kind of started to increase for me and take more and more of my life. So from dance fitness to CrossFit to personal training, spinning. And all that time, I still had a full-time job.
At the hospital, yeah.
At the hospital and then coaching.
Right.
And I remember it got to a point where I felt like, wait, my job is taking time away from sports. I felt like I wanted to do sports before work, during work, after work. That's when I realized that it just makes sense to actually focus on sports full time.
Yeah.
So I opened my dance studio, and then a few months into that, I left my full-time job.
Right. So how did dancing come in the picture? You were working at the hospital. I get that, you started doing that, but was dancing something that you always loved doing? Or was it just a problem that you saw there that, there's not enough gyms for women and there are not enough dance studios for women in Saudi? So, where did the thought come from?
I always loved dance, ever since I was a kid.
Yeah.
I love dancing.
Yeah.
And so becoming a dance fitness instructor happened when I was unemployed after I finished my master's. I moved back to Lebanon, and I was volunteering for a number of organizations. At the time, I thought, you know what? I want to try to get certified, maybe just increase my job prospects. Maybe this is a way I can make money as well, teach dance fitness. I enjoyed it so much. And subhanAllah, I didn't end up using that in Lebanon. But when I moved back to Saudi, the opportunity rose of me being able to teach dance classes because there was that gap.
Yeah, there was a gap.
There was a gap, and then I really enjoyed it, and I thought, okay, let me try.
Mm-hmm. And how was the uptake of, these women dance classes or in Saudi? Because you said, it wasn't like a very normal thing there. So how was the uptake like? Were people excited, into it?
They were so into it, and it was very well received, which is why I continue to do more and more of it. And it started to really impact people's lives. It was a fun platform, like a fun outlet for them. It's a way for them to move with friends. So I felt like, you know what? I'm actually impacting people more through sports than I am through psychology, purely. So yeah, I started to do more and more of it.
Right. So then that's how basically you started to move, right? Get moving and get into sports.
Yeah.
So it started with dancing, and then what else did you do? Like, how did that lead to K2? Sort of.
Yeah.
What sort of like sports and,
So hiking was also something I really enjoy doing.
Yeah. Like it was like a recreational thing for you?
Absolutely, a recreational thing. So in university, on the weekends, I'd go on hikes. And I remember my friends would complain, like, Nelly, sleep in. Why do you wake up for these hikes? Like these, boring hikes. And yeah, I just really looked forward to them. So I used to hike almost every weekend. And then when I finished my master's, I started to hike more often. And in 2015, when I was changing jobs from the hospital to coaching, during those 2 months, I went and did Kilimanjaro. And I loved it so much. I had such a good time. So I thought, you know what? I want to do more of this. And so that's how that started to increase. So it started to increase it was happening at the same time. It's not a full-time job. I was still teaching all these classes, getting certified in different types of sports. And then when I had some off time, I'd go travel and climb mountains.
Okay, that's nice. So in all of this journey, you switching careers and finding new passions, what was the role of your family or people who supported you or didn't support you? Because I don't know I don't really know what Arab culture is like, exactly, and how similar it is to our culture. And I don't know how in Saudi how encouraging they are of women pursuing different things, certain things. Because for me, I don't know the amount of freedom or empowerment women have in Saudi, right? Like I can't even, I have no picture of it. We have certain norms here in Pakistan where women are not allowed to do certain things, or like even if they're allowed, but if they do it, it's like sort of frowned upon. So all of this, how was that playing out in Saudi culture? Like, was hiking a normal thing over there for women to be doing or going out and doing? Since we've heard women were not allowed to drive before, now they're doing that as well. So how was that?
So with my family has always been supportive, and I owe all this to them because they really believed in my potential to do anything, whether it was being a psychologist or being a dancer or a climber. And my dad, Allah yarhamu, he took me on my first few hikes when I was a kid. And I remember these things. I remember walking with him and, inspecting the vegetation and the animals and the insects. And he taught me so many valuable lessons that stayed with me till today. So, of course, my parents have been super supportive, and they're my anchors. And the people around me have been, supportive. And I guess when I started to go down that route, I started to look for people in sports.
Right.
There are not many people in Saudi, but there were some communities. And so I started to look for these communities and connect with these people. And then when you surround yourself with people like this, that inspires you, that pushes you, because then I'd learn from them. So for example, at the time in Riyadh, a couple of years, like almost 8 years ago, there was a running community. I didn't like running, but that was one of the only sports communities that we had. But then that ended up really helping me with endurance training. And because of that, I ended up doing 5 marathons around the world and multiple triathlon races. So yeah, it's just I started to look for these people, surrounded myself with these people, learned from these people. And at the time in Saudi, yes, it was quite challenging. It wasn't very common for a woman to train outdoors. So that was a big challenge for me, being able to train outdoors with who's going to take me there since we couldn't drive. But again, when you surround yourself with like-minded people and the right kind of people,
you find your way, right?
Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah. So you found your communities and your support and people who
100%.
were encouraging, of this. And have there been any people from Saudi before to do K2?
There were no Arabs that have done K2 before.
Okay. So not just Saudi, like no Arabs. Okay, so that's, you must be so proud of yourself.
I am so proud of my entire community.
Yeah.
And I'm so proud of the other Arabs that were on K2 this year. There were other Arabs on K2 this year.
Right.
Nadira, Fahid, Saeed, Asma. So I'm proud of everyone.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm sure the Arab community must be so proud of you as well, for having someone from their community do something so big. So have you, what other mountains have you climbed?
You want me to name them?
Yes.
Or? So I climbed Everest in 2019. Aconcagua, the highest peak in Argentina. I climbed... my God, I'm blanking. That's how tired I am. I've
fine.
climbed Kilimanjaro. I've climbed...
So you've done many, basically.
Island
that means,
Peak, yes. Amadablam, Denali. We didn't get to summit, but we pretty much climbed the mountain. Mont Blanc. There's...
And was K2 something that you always wanted to do?
It felt special.
Yeah.
K2 was special. And I think it was special because, after Everest, everyone's like, oh my God, what are you going to do? What's what's the next big mountain? There's so many. There's so many that are more challenging.
Yeah.
Maybe smaller.
Yeah.
More challenging in their own ways. And there's mountains all across the world. But I was thinking, what would be different for me? What would change my training? What would be something that's completely out of my comfort zone? K2 is known as one of the most challenging and dangerous mountains in the world. So after Everest, I remember I was thinking of the idea, and then I spoke to my guide at the time, and he's like, no, you're not ready. He's like, K2 is a different ball game. You would need another 2-3 years of training. And this marks the 3 years since I've done Everest.
That's nice.
So it's, of course, it was on my mind. And then I told my dad, Allah yarhamu, that I wanted to do K2. My dad was so happy with Everest. It was like his pride and joy, shortly after my dad passed away, the only thing that really kept me going was sports. And then I did a mountain after 6 months of my dad passing. But that was different. That was a challenge of its own. It was beautiful. But again, K2 is different. K2, I know, because of the dangers entailed, because of how technical it is, the training is going to have to be completely different. So exactly a year after my dad passed, I made the decision. I'm going to go do K2, which was November 2, 2021. And then I spoke to my mom, and then right there, and then I just had the idea. Spoke to my mom, got her blessing. I don't think she knew what she was saying yes to. And then, and then I spoke to my guide. My guide said, okay, but you have to go do this other mountain to train. And then in a matter of 2-3 days, this idea became a dream, and then it became a plan. And this was 8 months ago or 9 months ago, and alhamdulillah, it happened.
Yeah, now that it's done. Yeah. So, I've heard they say that Everest is the highest mountain, but K2 is extremely challenging. So based on that, now that you've done both of them, how was it different? Was K2 actually more challenging? And what was it that made K2 more challenging than other mountains that you've done?
I think there's no comparison with
Right.
K2 is by far the most challenging mountain I've climbed. It is extremely difficult, and it's difficult because of not just the terrain and the way we climb the mountain. You have to climb the mountain a lot faster. It's only 200 meters, roughly, shorter than Everest in terms of height, but we did it in a month. Everest, we did in 2 months. There's a lot more comfort on Everest. It's a lot more commercialized than K2, which in a way makes it slightly easier and safer. K2 again, the terrain is difficult, but then also you're constantly scared. For me, at least, I felt constantly scared because I know if anything happens up there, there's no chopper that's going to take me.
Yeah.
There's no one that's going to help me. The risks are super high, a lot higher than Everest. I mean, 1 out of 4, that was the statistic before, I don't know about today, but 1 out of 4 would pass away while climbing K2.
Yeah.
Everest, the death toll was 10%. So, it's just, and when you're there, you're constantly at risk of rock fall, potentially slipping. The lines, the fixed lines that we climb on are not really reliable, so they might snap. Avalanche danger.
Yeah.
There's so many risks.
There's so many risks.
Yeah, and it's like this. We're climbing like this the whole time. I don't think from advanced base camp to the summit, there's a point that was a bit flat. It was all like this.
Right. So, and it took you guys a month?
It took us a little over a month, 5 weeks.
5 weeks,
Yeah.
right. And so can you tell us a more detailed experience of what it was like? What did you do? The weather conditions, the team, sort of like on the daily, what was that experience like? And some of the thoughts, of course, you were having, of course, you were scared for your life. But just a more in-depth experience of what you were feeling and thinking during this, because for somebody who's hearing this story, or just knows that, oh, this is something you did, and we can all see that it's a huge achievement and probably your biggest achievement when it comes to sports, but nobody knows what that's actually what it's actually like, so can you tell us a bit about that?
Okay, so when we started off on the hike, the first week to get to base camp, it's a hike. It's a pretty rugged hike, but it's a hike. The whole time I kept thinking, enjoy every day as it comes. Now that I'm on the climb, nothing matters outside of this climb. I need to keep my focus. And like little by little, I just started to get more and more into the climb. So like the external world started to matter less and less and less. Because when we're on the climb, we're still kind of connected, on the hike, sorry. And then the higher you go up, you get less and less connected. And then you start to get more immersed in the hike. So I feel like every day I would shed layers of the outside world. And my focus was just to stay healthy. So the first week I got sick, actually. I got a stomach bug. Many people did on the hike. From the very first day, I had an upset stomach. So I was just really worried that, why do I feel this way? What's going to happen? This is just the very first day. So the first week was just, the most important thing for me was to stay healthy, to get healthy. And not get injured on the way to base camp. We get to base camp. Once we're there, we rest for a day or two. And then we start to do some technical training. We did some technical training before we move up. And at that time, it's, enjoy the rest while you have it. And then once we moved up, we did our first rotation. So we move up and then we come back down. And the reason we do that is because to allow your body time to acclimatize, yeah, and to get used to the altitude. So you either climb up and sleep low, or you climb up in very small increments.
Right.
So on the way to base camp, we climbed up in very small increments every day, long distances, but small ascent, elevation gain. And then when we did our first rotation, I know from previous experience that it's gonna feel horrible. The first time you go up on these altitudes, it feels really bad. You feel tired, you feel slow, but then you come back, you rest, and then once you go back up again, you feel a lot better.
Yeah, like it feels a bit easier the next time.
Easier.
A bit, yeah.
Yeah. It still feels like you're on altitude, but it feels a bit easier. We then had the first rotation. We went up to advanced base camp, Camp 1. We slept at Camp 1 for 2 days, then we went up to Camp 2. And at the time, imagine my first rotation, I still had the stomach bug. I got a cold, I got a cold. We don't know what the cold was from. Yeah. Some of our teammates had it. And then I also got my cycle.
Oh my God, man.
I know.
I want my cycle right now. I'm finding this hard to do. So I don't know how you...
I don't know how I did it because I don't normally get my cycle on climbs. It stops. So this is still new to me that I got it on the climb. And I was in so much pain. I had so many cramps, and we're moving up to Camp 2. And I remember thinking, I don't want to do this. I feel sick. I want to throw up. And I was asking my guides, can I come back down? I don't want to do Camp 2 today. I want to do tomorrow. They're like, there's no tomorrow. Like, the weather changes.
Yeah.
You have to do it today. And I was just dragging my feet. I'm like, Nelly, just try to go as far as you can. Worst case, you know, you're going to come back. You'll come back if you need to. Just keep riding it. Like, just keep taking it step by step. You don't know how far you can go until you keep going. And subhanallah, I remember, like, I just somehow went into a state of flow. Nothing else mattered. And I didn't feel anything. And then I performed so well. And that was actually one of my best days because it started off as one of my worst days. But anyways, that was the first rotation. We also, after Camp 2, we went up to the Black Pyramid, which is at 7,000 meters.
Okay, what's that?
It's like, it's one of those like landmarks or like points that are known on K2 because they're quite challenging to climb. So the Black Pyramid is just like this, and you know, you have to scramble through rocks, and then there's like a small sort of ladder that you can climb up. Obviously, you're on fixed lines, but it's pretty much vertical on rocks. And yeah, so that was the last point of our rotation. We moved back all the way down after a few days. And then we waited at base camp. We thought we were going to stay there for 2-3 days, but then the weather changed.
Oh, okay.
We ended up staying for 2 weeks. We waited for 2 weeks to be able to move up to the summit at base camp. And every day it's like tomorrow, no tomorrow, no tomorrow. And you can't just stay sitting down doing nothing because you lose fitness.
Yeah.
And anyways, you are losing fitness because you're on altitude. Your body's working so hard to keep you alive. And we're still at 5,000 meters on base camp. So that was a challenge because every day it was like, what do I do today? Okay, I forced myself to go for hikes, little hikes with people. I met everyone at base camp. Every single day I do my rounds just meeting people at base camp and like dragging people to come walk with me. Worked out a few times, imagine, just to stay active. And then when we got the green light, we moved up to the summit rotation. And the summit rotation, honestly, I think the thing that kept me going is just thinking, we are in the hands of God. يعني نحن بإيمان الله. Allah ما بيتركنا. Like all the moments that I'd be super scared, I'd just think of Allah and I'd feel okay. I'm fine. Just trust that everything will be okay. And this really, alhamdulillah, this really kept me going. And then thinking of my dad, thinking of my family, how much my family want this for me as well. And putting them through this, I need to succeed. And I need to come back. Succeeding means coming back safely. So, those are the things that kept resonating in my mind and they kept me going.
Were there points where you just wanted to like give up? Like, I can't do this?
When I had my cycle. Also on the summit attempt, there's an ice wall. And I think that was the most challenging part of the entire climb because we were so close up to the summit. We were at maybe 8,400 or 8,500 meters. And there was an ice wall that was extremely difficult to climb. I'm not super familiar with climbing on ice. So I had to learn some skills right there and then. And it was, I got a panic attack. I couldn't breathe and I felt my heart rate was so fast. I'm using supplemental oxygen, but still you feel the altitude and I just felt like I couldn't catch my breath and this is not the right time to get a panic attack. And I actually had to unclip my bag, just filter out everything that's happening around me to catch my breath to be able to go up, to continue moving up. So I think that at that point, I didn't want to give up, but I just felt like I really hope this icy section doesn't last all the way to the summit. And can I do it? Can I climb this icy section? I've never climbed on ice like this before.
So, I guess that makes K2 more difficult as well, right? Like stuff like this, stuff you weren't trained for. So how was your, you said that you told your trainer that you wanted to do K2. Your trainer, right? Before, when you mentioned, was that
guide?
Your guide, yes. So, and he said that you are not ready yet. You need some more training. So, why was that? Like, how is your training different from what you did for, let's say, Everest than what you had to do for K2? What did that involve?
Oh, it was so different. So I was trained by a brilliant coach. His name is Michael Macasso. I reached out to him on Instagram because there's another athlete that I follow, and he did K2, and he's done. I mean, he climbs all around the world. So I just thought, who's the genius who's training him? What's his training program? And then I came across Michael. So when I reached out to Michael, it was the same day that I decided to do K2. It was still an idea, and Michael's like, "Yeah, I want to train you. I'm coming on board." So Mike put the program for me entirely for the year, or for the 7-8 months, and we were working together very closely every single day. The training was so different. The training was a lot more intense, a lot more hours. Some of the weeks I had 20 hours of training. I remember one of the last weeks I had was 30 hours of training. On Everest, I was training from a gym mainly. I would go hiking once a week.
Right.
And now I think, how did I get away with Everest? Like, how did I get away with Everest with that kind of training that I had? Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I think, like you said, in the hands of God. And I think, like, in things like this, what really matters is your faith and your mind, because you really need your mind. Because, if you give in to, like, your body or your challenges, then it's not easy. But when your mind is set and when you have more faith, then, like, I think stuff like this is all about mind over matter, right? So people who do these things, they really need to be very determined. They really need to have faith. They really need to, because it's not possible to not be scared, but you have to have faith and get past that fear and still sort of do
Absolutely.
it.
So I was speaking to actually my coach today. We're catching up, and I was telling him it was faith. Like, a lot of the times, you have to have faith, because you'd hear bad news. You'd hear that you might not be able to move up. There were deaths on the mountain. Allah yarham, the 3 men that passed away on K2 this year. And there's just, there's of course, there's a lot of moments where you have doubts, where you're super scared, where you don't know what's going to happen, if you can keep going on, if you're going to succeed. But faith keeps you going.
Yeah.
Faith keeps you going. And really, like, every time I would be super scared, but then I focus on, like, I channel my focus on, Allah's with me. Allah will never leave me. Then I feel like this immense strength.
Yeah.
Like, how can that change in like a second?
Yeah, like, that's what I'm saying. Strength can just come from your mind, from faith. Yeah. So, your family, they must have been so scared, right?
I think.
You. I mean, of course. Like, I'm sure they had all the faith in the fact that you can do it. I can tell by the things you've told me so far. But, they love you. And then watching you do something that obviously involves such a great life risk. What was that like for them?
I think they were more scared on Everest.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know. I just feel, or maybe they hid it from me and they don't want to show me that they're scared. But yeah, they seem pretty okay, and they were very involved in my climb, more so than Everest. Like, I had one of my sisters take over my Instagram.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, and then I had my other sister, I was updating her on InReach all the time, so I was always communicating with my family. Okay. Then I was communicating with my coach as well.
Can you do that from all the way
There's
up
like
there?
satellite devices, small satellite GPS devices.
Okay,
you can just message through them.
Okay.
Not WhatsApp or your phone.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I felt like, because they constantly heard from me and they got updates, and they saw how much I trained. They saw how much I prepared. I prepared so much for this climb. It became almost like a full-time thing for the last few months.
Yeah.
So
they were prepared, I think. Like, you were getting prepared and they were getting prepared with you.
My sister initially, my older sister was not happy with the idea. And then every time I tell her, K2, she'd be like, don't mention it, please. Like, I don't want to talk about it. Yeah, she really wasn't happy with the idea. But then as we got closer and closer to the climb, I feel like it started to grow on her.
Yeah.
And now my success is their success. My achievement is theirs.
Yeah.
They climbed this mountain with me.
So now you're going to go back to Saudi?
Yeah, I'm so excited to see my mom.
Yeah.
I was supposed to go back tomorrow. I'm supposed to surprise her. She's not going to see this podcast, so it's okay.
Yeah.
But my bag still didn't come back from Skardu.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I have to postpone for another day.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So don't you want to get any rest? Or do you want to just rest once you're like back home?
I do. I thought I was going to rest yesterday. I didn't. Yesterday I was sitting and trying to change my flights, and then I had some surprises in the hotel, so I didn't get to sleep. But I do want to sleep now. I really want to sleep at the moment.
Yeah, I can imagine. I'm sure must be so exhausting, right? Do you think that the fact that you pursued psychology at one point in your life, whenever so when you look back into your life, you always sort of reflect, I did this once or I did this once. And do you think that psychology is something that affects your life day in and day out now, and you feel that it was something that plays an important part in your life today as well?
Of course.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I feel like, physical and mental health go hand in hand.
Right.
So when I was working with people in sports, I felt I helped their mental well-being just as much as I was helping their physical well-being. And of course, having, studying psychology, being equipped with psychology helps me connect with people and connect with others around me. So I feel like in circumstances like mountaineering and in different sports as well, it just helps me connect with people around me. It helps me also tap into mental resources. Yeah. I spend a lot of time in my own head, so I have to think of what will help me on the climb. What are the strategies? If this doesn't work, what would work? Yeah, of course.
Right. Oh, so that's good, right? Because a lot of the times, people say that, you wasted your time doing something, your degree in something, and then you don't end up pursuing it. But I always feel like, even if it's not something that you are pursuing today, but it doesn't mean that it doesn't hold value anymore, because you still learn so much that you can apply in your life. Just because you're not making money out of it anymore,
absolutely,
doesn't mean that it has lost its value.
Absolutely,
right? And I especially wanted to mention this because a lot of people, they stay in that trap, so they're not going to pursue something that they're really passionate about or really want to do simply because they did their degree in something else.
Yes.
Or they're doing a job in something else which is helping them make money, and they always thought that they're supposed to be doing this. I'm sure many years ago you could have never thought that you're going to be doing K2 one day, from being wanting to be a vet to doing this, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So no, I think the way someone should look at it is, I'm building on, my life, and whatever you've done in the past has contributed to where you are today. Yeah. So it's never goes to waste.
It never goes to waste. Agreed.
So if you studied business and then you want to end up working in biology, I'm sure your business skills can maybe come into play one day if you want to open up a clinic. So you never know how these things can end up helping you. And I've gone in so many different directions. At one point, I loved photography. I wanted to study photography. I even applied to a master's in biological imaging and photography. And I remember I was this close to going and doing that. And I was like, wait, do I want to sit behind, an office and edit photos all day, or do I want to be outdoors? And subhanAllah, I'm getting more and more, I think I'm getting closer and closer to where I want to be. I'm still not where I want to be. And I feel like that will change from one period to another in your life.
And that's completely fine, right? I just feel like it's important to do what you love and feel like doing. Exactly. I feel like that's more of your purpose. And I also feel that
your purpose changes.
And also you give more value. And if we talk about, the outside world, whatever work we do, it gives some sort of value to people around you, right? And I feel like that you can give a maximum amount of value to the world when you are doing something that you actually love, because you do it with heart, you do it with a passion, so you do it better. So I feel like it's more important to do that than be stuck in a trap where you're just trying to do something purely because you feel like this is the degree that I've done, or this is what is expected of me to be doing right now.
For sure.
So yeah, that is something that I do take away from your story as well. So a lot of people, the one thing that bothers me, is that a lot of the times people who are switching jobs or careers, people frown upon them for not knowing what they want to do with their life and not being able to figure it out. And I just feel like people who are changing careers and doing that, they're actually a lot more intelligent because they are very aware of their passions. That is why they are like switching and their purpose. But people who cannot see that, for them it's just like, oh, this person doesn't have it figured out, doesn't know what they want to do in life. And I understand, because I think our society, it encourages stability, which I understand is important for survival, stability and sustainability. But it's not everything. It's not everything. And it's a journey, right? You can't decide that, oh, at 27, I'm just going to be stable and sustainable. And if I want to pursue something, then I'll have to give it up because it doesn't align with sustainability or stability. I mean, that's not fair. That doesn't mean you give up your dreams, and that doesn't mean that you give up the things that you really want to do. And unfortunately, culture and society, it sort of does that. It tells you, hey, but this is not stable. This is not sustainable.
Of course.
Yeah. So.
No, you have to find your own path. Yeah. And, I mean, learn from people that have taken similar paths, but your path is different. Your path is unique.
Yeah.
And I feel like it adds so much more life when you change and try different things, and it makes you more dynamic.
Yeah, yeah.
So, all these changes that I've gone through, I've met so many people along the way. And I've learned so much as a person. So, I just find that...
Yeah, growth matters, right? Yeah. So, does Move still exist, your dance studio? It's called Move, right?
Yeah, it's called Move. So, we closed in November 2020. We were online for the during the entire pandemic. And I continued my online classes up until, actually shortly before I came to K2. But all the other classes we had to stop. There was a lot of uncertainty. Gyms were closing and opening, and there was so many restrictions. And what made Move is the community. Having so many people in a room. Not having 3 people and then, social distancing, or 5 people. So we tried that, but it didn't work. The energy was not there. And honestly, it was not financially feasible anymore. So I decided to kind of put the studio on hold, the project on hold, until further notice. So no, we're not entirely closed, but we are not operating at the moment.
Right. So you might...
Inshallah, we will. Yes.
Okay, that's good.
Back, inshallah.
So do you have anything in mind about what you want to do in future now? Like, sometimes one can feel like, okay, now I've done K2, like I think I've peaked. What now?
Oh, there's so much. Are you kidding?
Right, okay.
No, I never think this way. I think that this is just one of the many steps I'm going to take in my life. And great. It was successful. Yeah. On to the next one. That's a great attitude to have. Because a lot of the times, it's great to celebrate your wins. But, they say you shouldn't celebrate yourself too much. Because then a lot of things, they don't... make you feel so challenged. They don't make you feel like you're achieving enough. That's not good for your mental health, because it's a discouraging sort of attitude. So what is next for you? We'll see.
You don't know yet.
I don't know yet. I'm actually planning on going and climbing in August. We'll see if it works.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's nice. And but is it climbing, or do you think that there is something else that you also want to do in future? Or
of course, there's so many things I want to do in the future.
Right. So you're not.
Inshallah, I want to have a family. Inshallah, I want to get a house, get a car, be a little more stable, because I've been moving around so much in the past few months. So. Yeah, there's a lot. I still feel like I'm at the start of my life.
The start of your life. Yeah. And you're so young. Like 32 is like,
How old are you?
I'm just turning 30. So I'm younger than you.
God.
But yeah, 32 is young, and inshallah you have your whole life ahead of you to do so many things. Right. So thank you so much.
Thank you for
having this conversation with me. It was insightful because of talking to us in so much detail about something that most of us will never experience, you know. So it's good to know, it's good to learn. And the fact that, you know, just this one thing that you mentioned about you being on K2 and then you having your period at that time just shows that, you know, like, because a lot of women, you know, they say some things are not for women, but, you know, you did it. And even under those...
It is, for everything is for women.
Yes.
It's a woman's world.
Yeah, it's a woman's world, right? And here you are proving those people wrong. And we really appreciate that. And we love that. And we truly hope that you continue to do more and more, inshallah. And all the best to you.
Thank you
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Happy Chirp. Loved the conversation, learned so much about climbing, and we didn't know what it's like, what K2 is like, what her life is like. And I think we can all learn so much about bravery, about not giving up, and especially about, you know, if you truly have faith, and if it's about, you know, having your mind over matter, then you can truly achieve great big things like Nelly has. And yeah, hopefully from this point onwards, it's only upwards for you. Like literally.
Inshallah.
Yeah, inshallah.
I need to. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you, and Allah Hafiz.